Good morning. I'm Pastor Leo Mejia from Charity Baptist Church. I am not in the office today, so I am now home. I'm in my bedroom, and I'm sitting at my wife's desk. And so, anyways, there are kids screaming in the background, so if you hear stuff, it's just them. So there's nothing crazy going on, just normal day-to-day stuff. But anyways, the passage of Scripture today is from the book of Philippians. I just preached a message from this, I think 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago. And anyways, I wanted to share this message again just to hopefully be an encouragement to you. But anyway, just really the key point of the passage I think is what will encourage us the most and something that we can take with us today. So Philippians chapter 4, verse 4, the Bible says, "Rejoice in the Lord always." Always. Now, the question is, can you do that? I mean, is it something, a lot of times with Christianity, we will take things and we're like, well, ideally, this is what it would be like. But can people really rejoice all the time? Always? I mean, is it about everything, or is it like this just a general thing? And I really believe what God's telling us here is always. I mean, you should be constantly rejoicing in the Lord. Now, some of you are in circumstances right now that are very different than you prefer. And some of you are realizing that for you, it's not as bad. For instance, you didn't follow sports, you didn't go out to eat a lot, you didn't do many of the things that we normally, that are being restricted right now. So you might say, hey, this is great. Many of you are still working, and so that's a very good thing. But I understand that there's a whole section of people that some will be watching this, some that are working, but they're from home, some that are not working anymore, and so that's difficult as well. We've had people in our church explain to us of individuals, sometimes them that cannot work because of what's going on. We have a few that, and I'm not sure exactly how many, but a number that have let me know that they're not working. And so it's a hard time. But with this, he tells us to rejoice. Now, rejoicing is kind of hard in the sense that, is it enough to just say, all right, well, you should just be happy? Well, that's not really what it's talking about. Literally, to rejoice, to have joy that's coming out in your life is what we're instructed to do. But one of the things that we oftentimes neglect in this passage of Scripture, and that's the first part. Notice what it says, rejoice in the Lord. Now, it's not just saying to rejoice, because sometimes people have this idea that we should just be cheerful, happy disposition about ourselves, and as long as we do, we'll be just fine. And so we kind of take this passage of Scripture and we'll just say rejoice. In fact, a lot of us probably have artwork in our homes that just say rejoice, but it forgets the most important part, and that's that it says in the Lord. So that's really the main thing I want you to take today, is that it's going to be in the Lord, because there are circumstances that make it difficult sometimes. And so, for instance, the verse before that, in verse number 3, I entreat thee also, true yokefellow, help those women which, I apologize, verse number 2, I beseech Euodias and beseech Syntyche that they be of the same mind in the Lord. So in the Bible, Paul says, hey, these two women need to get along because they're not getting along right now. And so they need to be of the same mind in the Lord. And so that's what's going to unify them, is being about the Lord, in the Lord, walking with God in their daily lives. If that's the case, then what there means there's some kind of strife within the church, or at least amongst friends, family members, whatever it may be, regardless within that church context. And anyways, with that though, they are told to rejoice. And so even though there's trials, and Paul's addressing something here, is that sometimes people have issues with each other. Some of you are home right now, and there's some stress at home, and that stress happens. My wife and I have had kind of a stressful past couple of days, not because we're home. We enjoy being home. We're actually glad that we are home for this part, just different trials that come about. But at the same time, there are struggles that come up between people, and so we have to remember that if the focus then is that individual, are you rejoicing just because of good relationship or the good stuff? Then one thing that we're going to find is we're really going to lose an opportunity to rejoice, because the rejoicing needs to be sourced in the Lord. In fact, what about the Lord? At the end of verse number 3, it says, talking about this, by the way, with other believers, sometimes the problem is with believers, it says, with other my fellow laborers whose names are in the book of life. He's addressing other people that we can rejoice in the Lord because our names are in the book of life. And so really, when we're talking about rejoice in the Lord, in essence, we could talk about a relationship we have with God, the fact we're going to heaven, the fact that He has saved our souls. In fact, in the book of Luke, Luke chapter number 10 and verse number 20, notwithstanding in this rejoice, and rejoice not. Verse number 19 talks about the power to be able to do all these amazing things, but it says notwithstanding, in this rejoice not. Don't take joy in just having good days or successes spiritually or even in ministry or maybe in your home. Maybe you just accomplished something. Yes, we're going to rejoice in those. That's great to enjoy them, but he says, rejoice not in those things, that the spirits are subject unto you, but rather rejoice because your names are written in heaven. Here's what he's saying: regardless of how good it gets and the things that you accomplish or the circumstances around us, that's not your joy. So get in the habit of, in good times, rejoice in the Lord. And one of the big things about it is your name is written in heaven. God has saved your soul if you're saved. And so with that, rejoice in the Lord. And so he tells you then, how often should we rejoice in the Lord? Always. So that means if there's struggles, as we saw in verse number 2, then rejoice. And if we're having really good days, rejoice. But it's always in the Lord. Our relationship with God. Your names are written in heaven. That means you'll be with him for eternity. There's nothing in this world that can take that away. So rejoice. God bless you all.